طيب. $26.79, huh? Keep that number. Now let's move on to Sunnah. طيب. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا وإمامنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Last class that we did last month, we spoke on for sure the prohibition of debating and arguing regarding the Quran in an irresponsible and disrespectful manner. In a skeptical, irresponsible, disrespectful manner in which there is no objectivity behind. We're not studying the tafsir of these ayat. There's a difference of it, but we're just trying to just have a, theological, rhetorical debate. And taking one verse from the Quran and hurling it against another verse, looking for contradiction, looking for controversy, looking for some type of action, looking for skepticism, proving our already established theories. That's what's meant by that. The prohibition against arguing about the Quran. That doesn't mean that two Muslims who are learned and educated cannot sit down and have a scholastic debate about this ruling. What was the last verse that was sent down from the Quran? One may say it was from Surah Al-Baqarah, and another says no, it's from Surah Al-Ma'idah, chapter 5. Ibn Abbas said this, Ibn Kathir said that. That's one thing, right? It's total different things. And I think that was one of our main highlighting points last class. Now I'm speaking on people abusing things and making things absolute which aren't necessarily absolute for their agenda. For their agenda. Everyone understand this? For their agenda. So therefore, against my opponent, this opponent, I have political debate or disagreements with them, or racial disagreements, or ideological disagreements, or based off of dunya, we used to be business partner, whatever the reason why we're not together, why we're not buddies. In your masjid and your Dawood program, you mentioned the different views about the different verses. And I use this against you. The prohibition about arguing against the Quran. But then me, my own organization, within my own circle, we sit down and we do what? Debate and have, you understand? So one of the main points of last month's class was never ever to weaponize the knowledge unjustly, incorrectly. All right, I'm of a school, you're of a school, so now I'm going to weaponize this knowledge against you for my own personal agenda, which is a worldly agenda. And this goes back to sincerity, al-ikhlas. And you don't make things absolute black and white when it's against the next man. When it comes to you, your team, your squad, no, there's detail, it's gray. It's so on and so forth, maybe the different situation. When it comes to someone that's not my friend, that's not my buddy, it's what? Black or white. You can't do this, you can't do that. We said that that's incorrect. That is not the way of Islam. That's not the way of the Prophet. That's not the way of the scholars of Islam. That is not the way of the Salaf Salih, the pious predecessors. Irresponsibly, immaturely abusing people through weaponizing absolutes. And it's something that has plagued the Muslims for a very long time. Politically, this empire or this kingdom, they killed Muslims. So that proves that they're wrong and they're illegitimate. But when they had to go to war against the Muslims or factions, their muftis and their qadis, what did they do? They signed off. Yes, you can kill them, they're heretics. Alright? And the same applies to the United States. Are you against injustice? Or are you against injustice to your race? Which are the two? Police shot someone, he was from this race. Oh, well, you know. Police shot somebody else from this race. We have to march, we have to protest, so on and so. What are you against? I'm against police brutality. Period. Chinese, black, African, Muslim, Jew, Christian, police brutality, I'm against it. Versus it only bothers me when it's what? Or white or green or purple. You guys get the point? So the Muslim has to always be sincere. He has to be objective to the truth, to the naked truth. That's it. No prejudice for or against anyone except when it pertains to the truth. And when a person claims to have the truth, obviously, oftentimes that itself can be what? Subjective. Everyone understand this? Okay. Khayr, inshallah. We explained all of that and the importance of that and the danger of that. Chapter 5 from Kitab al-Sunnah of Imam Abu Dawood, rahimahullah. And we'll say once again, we'll explain once again, hadith or hadiths, they are a world and it's a science in itself. Just like the Quran. And many people, they don't take hadiths or they reject hadiths or they won't obey or apply because they say, oh well, it's too confusing, or well, there are too many of them, or some are authentic, some aren't, some are spurious, so on and so forth. We sit down and we ask you the question, do you know everything about the Quran? Have you studied everything from the Quran? Do you know all of the sciences of the Quran? Do all of the scholars agree unanimously on the tafsir of everything from the Quran? Of course, the answer has to be no. But you clearly fully accept it, submit to it, so on and so forth. And there are many things about the basics of Quran and the academic study that you're ignorant of, but there's no problem. But when it comes to the hadiths, I'm ignorant, but if it's something that doesn't make sense to me or agree with me, that's automatically what? False and fake. That's also correct. That's incorrect. And many people have that attitude. Many people, they have that attitude, all right? So we should be careful with regards to that as well. So Imam Abu Dawood's book is a book of hadith, and it is a part of what is called Al-Kutub As-Sitta. Al-Kutub As-Sitta, the 6 books, the 6 mother books. That is the main, not the only, but the main source for the prophetic traditions in Islam. Just like we have the 4 Imams. Imam Abu Hanifa, may Allah have mercy on him. Imam Malik bin Anas, Imam Shafi'i, rahimahullah, and Imam Ahmad, rahimahullah. They aren't the only Imams. They aren't the only schools. But one can say they are the main traditional orthodox schools. And thusly, these 6 books are the main sources, but not the only. The Sahih of Imam Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, Sunan Abu Dawood, Jami' al-Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Majah, and Sunan al-Nasa'i. These great scholars, they collected, they authored collections of hadiths that were thorough, exhaustive, and in general, generally sound and acceptable as a whole, holistically, pound for pound. Everyone understand this? And if you don't read Arabic, you're not a big aggressive reader, that's fine, but you should know the basics of this, the basics of it. As a 9-to-5 Muslim who's a cab driver or bus driver or train driver, I'm not a scholar, not a student of knowledge, but I know in general, there is a source and there's a science, and these are the main ones, in general, all right? So Imam Abu Dawood's book is one of these 6, one of the most important, one of the soundest of these books. And we also said that a hadith is composed of 2 parts. There's the isnad, or the sanad, and there is the matan. And the isnad is the chain of reporters. And the matan is what is being reported. There is the destination, and there is the means of reaching that destination. Between you and the destination is distance. Between you and where you want to go, there's a distance. How are you going to get there? Except through a means. So that means is this one, from that one, from this one, from that one. He told me that he heard, that he saw, that he was there, that he witnessed. The Prophet said, told us, allowed us, etc. So the chain is the men and women between you and between the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the metin is what the Prophet said, what the Prophet did, what the Prophet allowed the companions to do, how the Prophet looked, how he ate, how he drank, how he believed, etc. And we understand this. A third element here, when we read these books, and it doesn't even have to be a real big book, we could be reading Riyadh al-Salihin. And in Riyadh al-Salihin, there's going to be a chapter heading. So these are the three things that you're going to focus on the most, some more than others. The chapter heading, and then the text. So this chapter heading is the fifth of the book. It says, Babun fi luzum sunnah, yani fi wujubi luzum sunnati, wa fadilati luzum sunnati, wa khatari wa khuturat adami luzum sunnati. It says regarding adhering to the sunnah, i.e. the obligation of adhering to the sunnah. And that adhering to the sunnah isn't an option. It's not a choice. And many people, they get caught up in terminology and they mix and they match apples and oranges incorrectly. So let's make an example of this. Making Salatul Dhuhr, Aqid. Is that a sunnah? Making Dhuhr, it's not a sunnah. Right? Making 4 rakats before Dhuhr, additional, is that sunnah? Perfect. Everybody agree with his answer? Everybody agree? You agree with your son? Will you allow tribalism and blood to come between you and the hawk? Or is the truth more beloved to you than your own son? Inshallah. Tayyib. So Aqil, say with me now. Did the Prophet make Salatul Dhuhr? For sure. Did he teach his companions about that? He spread Islam. He taught people to pray 5 times a day. So, in general, Dhuhr is from the way of the Prophet. So technically, Salatul Dhuhr is a what? It's a sunnah. It's a part of the Prophet's practice, his tradition. But at the same time, it's something that you have to make. It isn't an option. So it's not a sunnah, meaning additional. So many people, they confuse the two terms and the two concepts. And they think that there are things that are obligatory, which are, they're just sunnah. And there are many things that the Prophet ﷺ did, which we don't have to do. And there are things that he did do or tell us to do that we do have to do. But they're all a part of his sunnah. You get it? Making Jumu'ah is sunnah or not? But technically it's not, because it's fard. I.e., we're speaking a different tongue now. We're using the tongue of the scholars of fiqh, the fuqaha. Abu Hanifa, Shafi'i, Malik, fulan. But when we go up, bird's eye view, looking down, we're talking about the holistic concept of Islam. Jumu'ah is a sunnah for sure. The Dhuhr is a sunnah. Right? Lowering your gaze, not looking at the opposite sex unless she's your wife, that is a what? That's a sunnah. I'm not talking about the technical, is it obligatory or not, but that's from the Prophet's way. Everyone understand this? So many people, they think that just because something is automatically sunnah, it is recommended. You don't have to do it. That's wrong. Number 2, many people think that they have a choice with regards to the general behavior towards the way of the Prophet, as if it's a sideshow or a footnote. And obviously that's really messed up. Even if it's something that you don't have to do specifically, it's the way of the Prophet, so you're supposed to show respect to it. And you're requested to increase your faith by doing the extra deeds, the recommended deeds. And you're never ever going to say, oh, I don't have to, it's just option, it's just an option, it's just an option. Right? If your wife said to you, can you buy me this? Can you take me here? I really want to go here. Would you tell her I don't have to? Would you say that? Not in your right state of mind, you wouldn't. I don't have to. I'm not required to. It's just an option. I fed you. I put a roof over your head. I don't have to do nothing else. You wouldn't say that. Rather, you would try to do the extra additional things that bring you what? Closer to? Even if you both know that you don't have to do it. But you're not going to have that type of funky attitude. It's just extra. It's just a vacation. It's just a thing. It's just a thing. I don't have to. And that's the attitude of many Muslims today. They're requested or they're offered or knowledge presented to them. Oh, no, that's just a sunnah. I don't have to. No, we don't have to. We not on that. Just think about that. Is that attitude getting you closer to Allah or not? At best, your faith is going to be stagnated, let alone it's going to plummet. And the only thing that's going to make you a better Muslim is by you doing that what you have to do first, and also doing the what? The additional acts. Everyone understand this? If the Prophet ﷺ sat in front of you and he said, get up and do this, would you say, I don't have to? You wouldn't have that attitude. So it's all about attitude, right? Everything is about mentality and about your mindset, about your attitude. So here he says, sticking to the Sunnah, adhering to the Sunnah, that which is obligatory, that which is optional, the Sunnah that pertains to your belief system, the Sunnah that pertains to your prayer, your zakah, how you eat, how you dress, how you make money, how you save money, sticking to the way of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet of Islam, and its importance and its danger, and how there will come a time in which many men and women will do the opposite, and they'll think that it's justified and it's okay, and they'll use their own human reasoning, and they'll rationalize things, and they'll philosophize things instead of obeying. Don't forget, no matter how smart you are or how smart you think you are, you're still a slave. Never forget that. You're still a slave. You're a servant. And Allah is your owner, your master, your cherisher. Don't ever get besides yourself. Don't ever get besides yourself. And this is why Allah Azza wa Jalla, from time to time, He reminds us that we're slaves. How strong you feel, how brawny and broad like you think that you are. You get sick, you bump your toe, you get a toothache, right? A paper cut, you step on something. How do you react? You have to be reminded that the human being is weak. So never allow that hot air balloon to take you too far off the ground. Just humble, okay? All right. So let's read this, inshallah ta'ala. That's the chapter heading. Hadith number 4604. Aqeel Asad, stay with me. You guys stay with me, pay attention, read behind me. Imam Abu Dawood, rahimahullah ta'ala, says, Haddathana Abdul Wahhab ibn Najdah. قال حدثنا أبو عمرو ابن كثير ابن دينار عن حريز بن عثمان عن عبد الرحمن ابن أبي عوف عن المقدام ابن معدي كرب عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال ألا إني أوتيت الكتاب ومثله معه ألا يوشك رجل شبعان على أريكته يقول عليكم بهذا القرآن فما وجدتم فيه من حلال فأحلوه وما وجدتم فيه من حرام فحرموه ألا لا يحل لكم الحمار الأهلي ولا كل ذي ناب من السبع ولا لقطة معاهد إلا أن يستغني عنها صاحبها ومن نزل بقوم فعليهم أن يقروه فإن لم يقروه فله أن يعقبهم بمثل قراه. So we read this hadith again, and you want to pay attention to the letters, to the vowels. You want to make sure that you have a proper reading of the hadith, proper pronunciation. And when you can read the hadiths properly, you can memorize them properly. And one of the most important mindsets to have when you go overseas to study, or if you take an online course here in the United States, is that you want to establish for yourself a toolbox. I want to learn from you, but at the same time, I want to learn from you how to learn by myself, or on my own time. That is the greatest thing to walk away with. Because the knowledge that the teacher can give you is always going to be limited. But you want the teacher to show you how to do it yourself. Researching, reading, and memorizing. And if you think that you're going to get all the knowledge of Islam in 6 years or 8 years, you're mistaken. You have to keep studying every day. You read, revise, and go further. Are you understanding this? And we've explained this in the way of the disciple with regards to real teachers versus teachers that aren't so real. A real teacher is a teacher that puts you down. He plugs you in yourself. I don't need you to follow me forever and be loud. I want you to get it for yourself. I want you to be able to establish your own, create your own, further it, extend it by yourself. Versus, I just want you to be with me forever and be my tag along and my groupie and my no. We don't need no clones or groupies. We need independent people, right? And all successful businesses are like that. You open up your own branch. You open up your own franchise. You start your own family. This is your territory. You got your own operation going on. So on and so forth. Not to stay here forever with me. No. So therefore, when you're when you get into a class, you want to learn from the bits and pieces that you can from the teacher, the chunks, whatever, but at the same time, you want to be able to establish your own skill. Because there's times and places in which you're going to be by yourself and you still want to study. And you still want to memorize by yourself. And if you went overseas for 6 years, for 5 years, and you came back with nothing else except that you learned how to study yourself, you've succeeded. All right. So hadith number 4,604. The author says it was narrated from Al-Miqdam bin Ma'di Kadib. That's the companion's name. Miqdam, his first name. The son of Ma'di Kadib. That the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, "Verily, I have been given the book and something like it with it. But soon a satiated man," meaning his belly is full, shib'an, "will be on his couch." He's going to be lying back. Just think about the nature of this hadith now. This man that's going to say these words, he's not in prayer, he's not fasting, he's not on the battlefield. Hadith to say that the man who's dusty, his hair isn't combed, he's hungry, he's tired. Okay, think about this now. This man is satiated, he's full, he's burping and belching, using a toothpick. And he's what? He's chilling. Right? Relaxing, lamping, whatever word or term you want to use. So think about the mindset of this man now. He's full, he's had more than enough to eat, more than enough to drink, and he's lying back on something soft and warm, comfortable, cool. Okay? It's a mindset now. Listen carefully. He will say, "You should adhere to this Quran. Whatever you find permitted in it, take it as permissible. And whatever you find forbidden in it, take it as forbidden." You don't need a hadith. Islam is just a Quran, Holy Quran, that's it. Anything that's in the Quran, you take, you follow. Anything outside of the Quran, you don't need it. But don't forget, the man who says this, who has this attitude is what? Think about the connection between dunya and deviation. worldly luxuries and pleasures, and people straying. And I would say it's accurate or fair to say that whenever you see someone, quote unquote, change and switch up their identity and their ideology and whatever, this isn't haram, this isn't, political, whatever, 9 out of 10 times, you're going to see the belly getting bigger and the sofa being wider. And you're going to see more influence, more political power, more money, more luxury, more exposure. Think about that now. I'm talking about the United States. It comes with a cost. You want to be a household name? You want to be a household icon? You don't want to be harmed and molested in the airport and bothered. You don't want nobody to, you don't want no drama. You want to be just totally free. No problem. But there's some things from your deen that you have to relinquish. It's just that simple. You want to sell millions and millions and millions and millions of records? Your lyrics, your style has to what? Gotta change. It's that simple. You tired of being in the basement. I know, we know that. You're tired of being, you feel that your talent and your skill should be what? Recognized what? Globally. You're tired. You deserve better. Look at this whack, corny guy. Look how much money he's making. You see the contract he made? You see what type of money he's getting? Your stuff is what? 100 times better than him. But the reason why he's selling so much is because what? He's talking about a bunch of nonsense, nothingness, a bunch of degenerate, negative, excuse my French language and domestic crap. Literally. And that's what the people want. And that's whom we're going to endorse that person. But you're talking about something different style, complex. No. So if you win it like that, you gotta what? So it's you turning the knob down. The more influence and power and acceptance and worldwide icon status that you get, the weaker and more watered and more bleached your authenticity has to become. And that's in the dunya, let alone the deen. So a person changes their Islamic positions and views and they become lax and open and it's all right, no, because the worldly ladder, they're climbing it. So there's always a connection between the hayat dunya and between deviance and a person having impure philosophy. Islam is only this, that's extreme, that's extra, that's this, that's that. Of course you're saying that. Look where you're sitting, look where you're being invited to. But 10 years ago, when you were pleased with this, when you just had this, you're pure, you're wrong. You were giving the truth. But that truth was too uncomfortable to certain people. And the moment you go towards the people of this world, hungry, begging, handout, we all know what's going to happen. People talk about the streets being undefeated, and people of dunya and politics and bankers, they're undefeated as well. You want to be in our inner circle? You want to be endorsed by us? That's fine. But it comes with a cost. And the cost is you have to sell out. It doesn't mean that Allah can't make people love you and people know you. It doesn't mean that just because a person has popularity, he's automatically authentic. Lie. But we're talking about way up there, in which everybody smiles. Then that's a different story. You're paying something. So the man's stomach is full and he's lying back. And that causes him to take a different stance and a different approach towards things that compromise his comfortable living. And that is what has happened to the Muslims today. The hadiths, the sunnahs, they give us too many restrictions. You can't do this, you can't go here, you gotta believe this, it's haram to buy this, it's haram to say this. The Quran doesn't say that. Keep it simple, keep it easy. And then keep the Quranic interpretation open for anybody to reinterpret the scripture how they want to. And then reform Islam. So it's very, very dangerous. So the man will have a full stomach, he'll be lying back, and he'll say, alaykum bihad al-Qur'ani. Whatever you find in the Quran is halal, haram, and that's it, nothing else. Even though the Prophet ﷺ said, I have been given the Quran, the book, and something similar, like it, with it. And of course that's Sunnah. And the Sunnah is found in the Hadiths. It's just basic common sense. The Hadith then states, but lo, the domesticated donkey is not permissible to you to eat, nor every predator that has fangs, nor the lost property of a mu'ahid, unless its owner has given it up. Whoever stops among the people, they are obliged to entertain him, and if they do not entertain him, then he has the right to take from them an amount equivalent to that which they should have entertained him. I.e., these are some things that are haram. whether they are or whether they aren't mentioned in the Quran. The Quran talks about foods, right? The Quran talks about animals that you can and cannot slaughter and eat, right? And from those animals is basically a zebra. And if it's not a zebra, it's a donkey that is wild, is running freely. Or the opposite, it's domestic, it's not running freely, it's not a zebra. It's a donkey used to carry things in the city, in the town, in the village. As far as the donkey that's wild, that you hunt and catch and capture, that's lawful to eat. But the domesticated donkey is just like the flesh of swine. You can't eat it. It's haram to eat. It's haram to consume. Even though it may not be mentioned where? In the Quran. Furthermore, things that you are not allowed to eat, you're not allowed to enjoy, is a bird, or it says here, al-himar al-ahli, وَلَا كُلُّ ذِي نَابٍ مِنَ السَّبْعِ, and every predator that has fangs, such as a what?
Lion.
A lion, a wolf, tiger, something that uses its fangs. You aren't allowed to eat those things. Even if you catch them, if you slaughter them, if the meat is tasty, if it's culturally accepted, it's like the flesh of swine. It's haram for Muslims to eat that. Everybody clear with this or not? No. Some brothers, they say, yani, you can eat boar, you can have wild boar, because it's not the same as a hawk. It's a clean animal. It's in the forest, it eats berries and nuts and things like this, little worms or whatever. It's not the same as a pig on a farm. So it's lawful. What you got to say about that? Some brothers, they make this argument and say a wild boar it's not pork, it's not swine. For sure. Sharp fangs. They'll tear you to pieces. But the counter argument is, does it hunt with those fangs? Or are they just there? The hadith says what? Fangs. I don't understand this out of him. The moral of the story is if the animal has those canines, those teeth, then what? You can't eat it. Cats, dogs, etc. Move forward. From the things that are haram is the lost property of a mu'ahid. Let's see what they say the mu'ahid is here in the footnotes. There are 3 types. It says here, a non-Muslim with whom there is a covenant. All right, so in general, not to get too deep, the relationship of non-Muslims with Muslims has to fall under a category. So to keep things simple and easy, a non-Muslim can be a dhimmi. And a dhimmi is a non-Muslim who lives in the Islamic lands under the protection, care, and welfare of the Muslims. And of course, there are conditions for that. They have to be either a Jew, a Christian, or a Zoroastrian. They can't be a Jainist, a Sikh, a Hindu, a Buddhist, an atheist, agnostic, no other religion. One of those 3. And obviously there are taxes that they have to pay. And there are duties that they must fulfill. And there are things that they can and cannot do living in the lands of the Muslims. The Muslims are not to molest them or harm them or take their property, etc. And when we talk about history, the Muslims being terrorists, Muslims are intolerant, Muslims are savage, barbaric, decapitating, beheading, bloodthirsty people, blah, 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 blah. You just go back and you rewind the tape a little bit, hundreds of years ago, when the Christians and the Catholics, when they kicked out all of the Jews from Spain and Portugal, you either convert to Catholicism or you get out, or we kill you. Even if you convert, we still may take your money, you're still not unequal, etc., etc. Where did they flee? Who took them in? Who welcomed them in? Who allowed them to live freely in their countries? It was the who? It was the Muslims. But that's not mentioned. And if you're ignorant of that, then you're just going to, Islam is peace, and, we don't believe in this, and, many Muslims are terrorists, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's look at your history now. You start throwing around those terms and hurling terms. Intolerance. For years, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church, has been one of the most intolerant institutions, period, among other Christians, to other Christians. Right? People that go on, and it's just so much ignorance, Yani. You talk about the Crusades and the different new movements, or those who said that the Crusades were totally justified. The Muslims had encroached upon their territory. The Muslims killed people. The Muslims did so on and so on and so forth. All right, tell you, perfect. But what about all of the Jews that were massacred in France and Germany before they even got anywhere close to Jerusalem? What did those Jews do? The Rhineland massacres, slaughtered thousands, took all of their money, usurped everything. What did they do? Were they Saracens? Were they Mohammedans? Were they devil worshipping idol worshippers? They slaughtered them just like that, simply, easily. And what about the other Christians that the Catholic Church declared heretical? And there were crusades, legalized law, blessed by the Pope to kill them, to enslave them, etc. What about that? So calling someone intolerant and extreme and violent and bloodthirsty is easy unless someone fights back and pushes back. And that's the importance of knowledge. And that's the importance of reading history. You can't just push your weight around and throw your weight around. Because I know there are things that you don't want to mention. There are things that you're hiding. Let me remind you of them. Let me teach you of them. Right? So ignorance makes you weak. And ignorance allows someone to bully you around and to tell you the narrative of history. So Islam protects the wealth and the possessions of non-Muslims. From that is the non-Muslim who's a dhimmi. He's a dhimmi. And if he isn't a dhimmi, he doesn't live in the lands of Islam, the lands of the Muslims, under their protection, under their care, then he is musta'man. And a musta'man is one who's allowed entry into the lands of Islam for a period of time, and no one will harm him, no one will molest him, no one will bother him. Like a visa. You got 10 days, 12 days, do your business, blah, 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 you go. No one will bother you. And if not, then there is the mu'ahid. And the mu'ahid is the one who doesn't live with the Muslims in the lands of Islam, but there's a peace treaty between them. For 6 months, we won't fight each other. For 2 years, we make peace. There's trade, there's mutual benefits, people from your country drop off goods, blah, 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 blah. Right? And if a non-Muslim doesn't fall under these, then he's going to fall under the category of what? Harbi. And the Harbi and the traditional Islamic law is a non-Muslim who fails to fall under one of those previously mentioned categories. Everyone understand this? Is it the dhimmi, mu'ahad, musta'man? If he's not one of those three, then he is harbi. Someone who has no allegiance, no protection, no covenant, no nothing. Everybody feel this? That's in brief. That's not the topic of our class, which is mentioned in the hadith. So therefore, the lost possession of this non-Muslim who has this pact and this covenant is not allowed for you to just take it and pocket it. Unless they can do without it. It's a little bit, you don't care about it, that's one thing. Last but not least, from the rulings of Islam, is that whoever comes to a people, goes to a people, and they refuse to entertain him, they refuse to host him, then he is allowed to take what he needs, raise the court, raise the situation, whatever, just to get his haq. I came to Maryland for 2 nights. The brothers refused to host me. So now I'm legally allowed to take and to demand from you $100, $300, well, whatever. Hotel, food, basic stuff. Everybody understand this? The importance of honoring the guest, entertaining the guest, and the obligation, according to some scholars, of entertaining the guest. Everybody understand? That's what that last part of the hadith means. The highlighting point from the hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ told us a time will come in which people will reject hadiths and reject the Sunnah. And they'll claim to love the Quran, to respect the Quran, and to want to follow the Quran. But in reality, we know that's a smokescreen. And one of the reasons why people reject hadiths, there are many reasons. From the reason behind rejecting the hadiths is worldly comfort. I can shake the lady's hand with no issue, because that's not in the Quran. I can pray when and how I want to, because none of those details are what? In the Quran. I can make this trade, this agreement, this type of money, savings, and whatever, because that's not what? Etc., etc., etc. No holds barred. I can do what I want, basically. And there are those who don't outwardly reject the hadiths, but they warp them, they twist their meanings, they put their figurative interpretation on. There's so much what's left. Well, what remains? There's no content left, right? You had the green tea, right? Check name, but you boiled it for 10 minutes. You put a whole big gigantic cup of sugar in it. You put milk in it. You put honey in it. You put molasses in it. What remains of the antioxidants? Or you get the point? You stripped it of its value. It's green though. But reality, what remains of the content? So that's what happens when someone takes the hadith. It really doesn't mean this. Oh, but in 2023, but you know, this shake in this situation, so you can shake your hand. You don't have to pray like this. You can't eat this because you know it's not. You know, it's nothing left. There's no content left. So the Prophet ﷺ, he told us that time will come in which people will have this incorrect attitude, and they'll say that Islam is just the Quran. Of course, there's a detailed rebuttal for that falsehood. And last thing I'll say before we move into the next hadith was a brother. I was counseling him and his wife or ex-wife, whatever the case may be. They had a child together, and he was a traditional Muslim. And his wife, you know, Allahu Alam, she totally mutated into something else, and she basically became a self-declared Quranist. Islam is just the Holy Quran. That's it. And to the extreme that the one who says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is a mushrik, a polytheist. And it's just La ilaha illallah, that's it. That's just La ilaha illallah, that's it. Not Muhammad Rasulullah. Just like that. And that to believe in the hadith and sunnah, this and that, praying, covering, eating is all heretical. It's just the Quran. All right, no problem. So the brother asked me to speak with her to help her with regards to those, you know, issues, and also they were having issues with custody, so on and so forth. So a couple meetings in, he mentioned the story when they went to a judge, and they were standing in front of the judge. They were trying to, you know, discuss the custody issues, blah 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 blah. So the brother, he said in the middle of them, you know, her arguing and so on and so forth, my daughter can't go with him because he's going to brainwash her, blah, 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 blah. So the brother, he asked the judge, he says, Judge, can I ask you a question? Sure. He says, do you have a religion? What is your religion? He says, yes, I'm Jewish. He says, great. He says, could I become a Jew? You know, he says, yeah, many people convert. He says, can I be a Jew without believing in Moses? So the judge was what do you mean? He says, I won't accept, you know, there's no such thing as Moses and the Israelites, the Hebrews, nothing. Can I be a Jew? You know what the judge told him? Of course not. He said, well, that's what this woman is claiming with regards to our religion, is that there's Islam without Muhammad. Get the point I'm trying to make? No. So the moral of the story is, it's just common sense when a person lacks it, and then they think that they're so smart and educated and intellectual, oftentimes it makes them stupid. All right, and as they say in ancient Japan, a grain of sand can blind someone from a mountain. That's a statement of the shinobis, ninjutsu. They say a grain of sand can what? Blind someone from a mountain. Right? Just think about that. Something so small, so simple can blind someone from something so big and obvious and plain. All right? Khair, inshallah. Let's move forward. Next hadith states, حدثنا أحمد بن محمد بن حنبل وعبد الله بن محمد بن نفيل قالا حدثنا سفيان عن ابي النضر عن عبيد الله ابن ابي رافع عن أبيه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أنه قال لا ألفين أحدكم متكئا على أريكته يأتيه الأمر من أمري مما أمرت به أو نهيت عنه فيقول لا ندري ما وجدنا في كتاب الله تبعناه. And moving back to that story with regards to the brother and his wife, I'm sure with all of the things that she was claiming against him and how she was mistreated and so on and so forth, I'm sure that had a great impact on her straying and steering away. The traumatic experience of divorce, custody battle, I was mistreated, you, your mother, etc. When this one, that one, they looked at and I felt the smiles, the hugs, the laughs, lack of judging with those people. And that's another connection. with regards to people accepting your da'wah and how you treat them and how you behave with them and how you make them feel. Don't ever forget that. You have bad character, you can't get mad at someone saying, I don't want to follow what you're following. And don't ever underestimate how fragile the human being is. The human being's heart is fragile. Someone can steal your heart and you'll follow them and be with them, even if it's not the most correct thing, but just how they made you feel. And you can push someone away, no matter how true what you're saying is, just because of how you what? How you made them feel. So good character. Right? You can't claim perfection, Islam, Sunnah, the deen, the knowledge, but you backbite and you slander and you gossip. How does that work? You leave the mosque, you pray, and then I catch you talking about another Muslim like a dog behind that person's back. Did you pray at all? Did you make Isha? So the mindset of dawah and akhlaq. You have to have good behavior. You got to be kind and gentle with the people if you want them to listen to you. All right. Hadith number 4605. It was narrated from Ubaydullah ibn Abi Rafi' from his father, meaning Abu Rafi', that the Prophet ﷺ said, let me not find one of you reclining on his couch. Let me not catch you in that state. And when he hears of a command that I have enjoined or a prohibition I have issued, he says, we don't know. What we find in the book of Allah, we will follow. You understand? Same mentality, same attitude. Okay, so if you don't know, if you haven't heard of the hadith, how about you follow and listen to someone who has heard of it and does know? Right? Person says, I don't know about that. Okay, no problem. But I do know. So let me give it to you for free. No, it's okay, no thanks. So this shows us the connection between ignorance and arrogance. Arrogance and ignorance. And how those two are always going to lead to someone deviating and steering from the straight path. You're ignorant, you lack the information. You're too arrogant to accept someone who is bringing it to you. So therefore, it can only equal to one sum, which is you've left the sirat al-mustaqim. So you have to learn. You have to be humble. And inshallah, if you learn, and if you're humble, and you're always willing to learn and have an empty cup, inshallah, you'll be upon the straight path. There's always a connection, guys. Nothing is by accident or coincidence. So don't forget that. All of these things are connected. Inshallah, let's move forward. Next hadith says, حدثنا محمد بن الصباح البزاز قال حدثنا إبراهيم بن سعد وحدثنا فضل. You start us off, Asad. Finish reading, please. Says وحدثنا محمد ابن عيسى قال تفضل بسم الله.
حدثنا إبراهيم بن سعد وهذا
Ha. Whenever you see that letter like that, you just say ha.
وحدثنا محمد بن عيسى قال حدثنا عبد الله ابن جعفر المخرمي وإبراهيم بن سعد عن سعد بن إبراهيم عن القاسم بن محمد عن عائشة
قالت
قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس فيه فهو رد
Nabiyyu.
نبي صلى الله عليه وسلم
من صانع
من صنع أمرا على خير أمرنا فهو رد.
جزاك الله خيرا. عقيل.
حدثنا أحمد بن حنبل حدثنا الوليد بن مسلم حدثنا ثور بن يزيد
حدثني
خالد بن معدان حدثني عبد الرحمن بن عمرو السلمي وهجر بن حجر قال أتينا العرباض ابن سارية وهو ممن نزل فيه ولا على الذين إذا ما أتوك لتحملهم قلت لا أجد ما أحملكم عليه فسلمنا وقلنا أتيناك زائرين وعائدين مكتسبين فقال العرباض صلى بنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ذات يوم ثم أقبل علينا فوعظنا موعظة بليغة ذرفت منها العيون ووجلت منها القلوب فقال قائل يا رسول الله كأن هذه موعظة مودع فماذا تعهد إلينا فقال أوصيكم بتقوى الله والسمع والطاعة وإن عبدا حبشيا فإنه من يعش منكم يأتي فسيرى اختلافا.
The alif maqsura, what looks like a ya, and then the next alif, both of them, you're just going to erase them when you're reading it. You're going to go from the ra with the fatha into the kha with the sukoon. Fasayarah. These two are just going to just erase them. You got it? See?
كثيرا فعليكم بسنتي وسنة الخلفاء الراشدين المهديين تمسكوا بها وعضوا عليها بالنواجذ وإياكم ومحدثات الأمور فإن كل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة.
Jazakallah khairan. MashaAllah, great job for you and your brother. Jazakumullahu khairan. Alright, so the next two hadiths stays here. Hadith number 4606. It was narrated that Aisha said, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever introduces something into this matter of ours that is not part of it, he will have it rejected. Plain, simple, easy. Doesn't get clearer than that. Whoever, knowledgeable, big fry, big shot, small shot, men, whoever comes to this matter of ours, this thing of ours, the deen, and he introduces to it that which is foreign, no matter how sincere he is, how knowledgeable, how popular, no matter how sweet it may taste, no matter how good, etc., for who, period. And that's in all affairs of the deen, from what you believe and how you believe, how you practice, Islamic politics, anything that pertains to the deen. Something that's from Iman, ghaib, unseen, halal, haram, fahuwa, rad, mardud. Then obviously this hadith, as you've read in Iman, know is 40 hadiths, the half of the know is 40 hadiths. You know that this is one of the cornerstones of Islam. The prohibition of introducing things into Islam. As far as the worldly life, innovate, create, make things evolve. Go ahead, sky's the limit. Wireless microphone, right? And I know to some now, this is like archaic and, dinosaur. He's holding the mic. But 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was what? Futuristic. Unthought of. Concept of a microphone, etc., etc., etc. So people always make things, innovate, create, introduce things, will always evolve in the dunya. And that's how they should be. But the values remain the same. And the rules of Allah and His Messenger remain the same. What you believe about Allah, how you believe in Allah, what Allah told you to believe in, that can never ever be altered or changed. Period. So this hadith is a cornerstone of the deen. Whoever introduces anything, big or small, to this religion of ours, it will be rejected. It's of no use. And we all know in the Quran Kareem, Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us about how people will come on the day of judgment and they will be tired and exhausted and their deeds will be futile. Allah talks about the mirage. Allah talks about dust being scattered by the wind. Ash on a windy day. Haba and manturan. Allah talks about the dust floating of no value. هل أتاك حديث الغاشية وجوه يومئذ خاشية عاملة ناصبة. On that day, those faces will be terrified, scared, and they will be exhausted. They worked a lot, but they didn't have sincerity for Allah. They didn't believe in Allah's tawheed. They made shirk with Allah. They didn't do it sincerely for Allah, and they made it up. They didn't follow their prophets and their messengers. They're on the last prophet and last messenger. So whoever introduces into Islam, whoever, this imam, that imam, your imam, my ancestor, it doesn't matter who, rad is rejected. As far as worldly inventions, go ahead. As far as the means of performing the spiritual acts, that's also open, such as a microphone. Microphone, bare voice. I give you the message, pass it on to the sisters over there. That's fine. But the message of what I'm saying is what? One thing. The means, it can always what? Vary. Everybody understand this? So many Muslims, they misunderstand this as well. And I've seen this with my own two eyes. You go to masjid, you tell a brother, or that prayer that you made, or what you say, you can't say that supplication is made up. I've seen this with my own two eyes. Ain't you using a cell phone? Don't you have a wristwatch on? Isn't that innovation? Wallahi. And this is from poor understanding. Okay? So once again, worldly innovation, no problem. Spiritual innovation, big problem. Alright. Khayran inshallah ta'ala. Move forward. Next hadith is 4607. Abdurrahman bin Amr as-Sulami and Hujr ibn Hujr, two men. They're from the Tabi'een. Okay? These men are here. They're visiting someone that's from the Sahaba. Alright? These two men here, they're visiting another Sahabi. We went to a man whose name was Irbad bin Sariyah, who was one of those concerning whom the verse, nor is there blame on those who came to you to be provided with mounts, when he said, I can find no mounts for you, was revealed. I.e., he's a virtuous man. He's from the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. And Allah Azza wa Jalla sent down verses from the Quran regarding him and his affair. Meaning when it was time to go out and fight, make jihad fi sabilillah, there were men that were poor, there were men that were sick, there were men that were weak, and there were men who said, we'll fight, but we don't have any mounts. We don't have any horses or camels to ride upon. Can you supply us? And the Prophet told them, I don't have any. It's not enough money. And they were saddened. They cried. They turned away. Like, tag man, we want to go out and fight. But we didn't have enough provision or enough provisions. Or everyone understand this? Okay? So this man here, he's not an average guy now. He's a companion of the Messenger of Allah. And he was a person that Allah declared to be free from hypocrisy. In the time of the Prophet ﷺ, when the battles came, we mentioned this before last week as well, right? Okay, the concept of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ being discreet and hiding his intentions to keep safe from spies, right? So therefore, in simple basic terms, we're going out to fight. Whoever doesn't come, in simple basic terms, is a munafiq. Basically, why are you staying in Medina? The men, the Sahaba, are going to the battlefield. Many of them won't return. Doesn't get realer than that. And those who do return, many of them will be wounded, missing an eye, missing an arm, missing a leg, missing an ear, right? Permanent scars, etc. So you staying back from the battle without a proper excuse can only mean one thing, and that means that you are what? You're munafiq. And not only did the munafiqs avoid fighting in Allah's cause, but they were agitators against it. No, don't go. It's going to be a slaughter. Don't go. It's going to be horrible. They would pull other people to what? Stay back. They would spread fear and panic, and they would agitate other people to relinquish the Prophet's numbers. Everyone understand this? So this verse, Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us that there is no blame upon men of such and such a nature. Men who are blind, men who are sick, men who are ill, men who can't go out and fight. There's no what? There's no blame. They aren't munafiqs. They're sincere believers. And from those upon whom there's no blame or accusation of defect are those who can't afford to go out. And this man was one of them. When we talk about the academic study of the Quran, that which is called Asbab an-Nuzul, reasons why verses were sent down. Everybody understand this? So they went to visit this man who has this virtue, right? And they said, listen carefully, he says, فَسَلَمْنَا وَقُلْنَا. We gave him the salams. We greeted him, assalamu alaikum. And they said, we have come to you to visit you and to benefit from you. Killing two birds with one stone. We want to check in on you as a brother. How you doing? And at the same time, never ever losing focus of the greed for knowledge. Alright? So I want to see how you're doing, but at the same time, we also want to benefit from you. And there's no harm in that. There's no harm in that, right? But the harm is not being real what your intentions are. Brother calls you, Assalamu alaikum, how you doing, Sheikh? Blah, 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 mashallah, blah, blah, blah. I got a question. If you called and you had a question, that's all you needed, just say, Sheikh, I got a question. If it's a little bit of this and that, that's also fine. But if there's only one reason, just be upfront what it is. And that doesn't mean that you have to be rude. So like, how you doing, Sheikh? I'm well, alhamdulillah, can I ask a question? You get it? Somebody you didn't talk to in years, out of the middle of the blue, he calls you, starts talking, laughing, and joking for 5 straight minutes. Then out and he says, so look, Sheikh, I need something. It's obvious that was the reason why you thought about me after all of that time. So therefore, make a simple, basic introduction, basic pleasantries. How you doing, man? You good? Alhamdulillah. Look, I need a favor. Close. But don't kick it and act like you're calling just to be friends when in actuality you're only calling for a reason. Everybody understand the difference? So scenario A is that there's a mixture of this and that. Scenario B, I'm only here for a reason. Scenario C, I'm only here to visit you, not to ask any questions. So on and so forth. You guys get the point I'm trying to make? So they clearly declared from the get-go that we're here for 2 reasons. To visit you, sick, old, blind, etc. And also to to learn from you, to benefit. Right? And this part of hadith shows us how the Salaf al-Salih, how they were eager to learn. They were eager to travel and they were eager to benefit. Okay? So Irbad, he said, no problem. Tayyib, okay. Let me tell you a story. Let me tell you about one time we were with the Prophet. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ led us in prayer one day. Then he turned to face us. And he exhorted us in an eloquent speech, upon which our eyes filled with tears and our hearts filled with fear. The words of the Prophet ﷺ were powerful, they were strong, they were impactful, and they were eloquent. It had an effect on us. We started to cry, and we could feel it, the power of words. And the necessity for a speaker, for an imam, to be strong in his Islamic knowledge, to be strong in his worldly knowledge, and to speak properly, and to speak with confidence and authority, and to have the necessary amount of eloquence as a speaker. You have to know how to speak properly. You can't be on the minbar stumbling and dropping stuff and lie. You aren't allowed to say but so many times as a sin of public speaking. Everybody does it every now and then. You may say but every 5 words, yeah, I mean, and you know what I'm talking. No, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. So it's very important to speak with sharpness. And when you speak with sharpness, then that's going to have what effect? People are going to feel it. Now, if you're knowledgeable, eloquent, speak properly, and you speak with confidence and conviction and sincerity, you're going to snatch people's hearts. Just like that. And that's the importance of the khutbah. And that's the importance of the classes and of dawah. You're sharp and you're sincere. And you're speaking with conviction. When the people listen to you, they're like, man, it got to be the truth. Look how animate he is about it. Versus weak, but maybe, inshallah. And many people that make this mistake when they give dawah to non-Muslims. They try to use wisdom and they end up being too weak and too soft. We believe in Muslim. No, it's the truth, the haqq, it's Islam. Just like that, Christ was a messenger of God. He was a beloved person to God Almighty. It's not no diplomatic trinity lie. Don't be so weak, right? So you got to have conviction. And your conviction, without any doubt, we're talking about the science of public speaking, it will trickle and it will become infectious to the listener. So the Prophet gave them a reminder. He spoke to them after the salah. He led them physically. Then he spoke to them verbally. And it caused their eyes to water. And it caused their hearts to be tender. And someone said, "Oh, Messenger of Allah," look how emotional it was now. It is as if this is a farewell address. Huh? The way that somebody speaks to someone the last time is going to be known. You're going to feel it. I feel a sadness and emotional undertone to the speech. You're getting a little too sentimental now. Comparing to, he felt it. And the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, he was asked, what do you enjoin upon us? I.e., after 23 years of teaching. Right? 23 years of teaching the companions. Those who from day one, those who made hijrah. What's important is, he taught them for a lifetime. He taught them for a long time. And they still said, give us one last what? One last final gem. Give us some last parting words. And the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I enjoin you to fear Allah. Usikum bi taqwallahi. And the sentence could stop. That's everything that you need. There's nothing that's needed that can be more comprehensive than that. Taqwallah, period. Includes everything from this word and fear Allah, and everything else will be straight. Then he said, spoken about the world, and speaking about politics, and leadership, and following, and structure. He says, and I enjoin you to hear and to obey, meaning to your Islamic leader. Don't say we're not going to listen to him, we're not going to obey him, we're going to do what we want to do. Listen and obey your leader. There has to be structure. And as they say, men must be governed. It's a true statement. If you will abuse that statement, but the statement itself is true. Men must be governed. That's how it goes. There has to be a leader. It's the bottom line. And this leader of yours, you're to show respect. You're to obey him and the halal, not the haram. You're to follow him, fight with him, pay taxes to him, even if it's someone that you dislike and look down upon, such as an Ethiopian slave. Speaking to the Arabs. If the Prophet ﷺ was from Ethiopia and he was speaking to the Ethiopians, he would tell them what? Listen to your ruler, follow your ruler, even if he's you get it? If he was a Chinese man speaking to Chinese people, listen to your ruler, follow your ruler, even if he's Japanese. Even if he's Korean. Right? Puerto Rican, Dominican, whatever. The different dynamics. People hate each other on the same border. They mix with each other, they buy and they trade. Don't confuse me. You ask someone from China, are you Japanese? No. That's disrespectful. I'm Chinese. I'm Korean. Don't ever confuse me with Vietnamese. They're dirty. They're this. They're not that. I'm from Cambodia. Right? Black people. Where you from? You from what? Don't get me started. I laugh. That's not what they say. You ask somebody from New York, where you from? You from Jersey? What? Jersey? What? Blasphemous. You from Brooklyn? You from the Bronx? No, I'm from Sunshine. People get real tight with being associated with someone and they look as being inferior to them. That's a fact. That's a fact. Jihadi is strong. Let's keep it real. I ain't from Philly. What you talking about? Philly, nah. That's how it is. Okay? So the Prophet ﷺ told them, listen to your ruler, even if he be an Ethiopian slave. Now look at this. Many people have a problem with this hadith, like many other hadiths. And they say this hadith is disrespectful to African people, it's disrespectful to black people, it shows the attitude that Arabs have towards black people, so on and so on and so on. But just stop and look at the hadith now. Let's embrace it. First and foremost, he's Ethiopian. So if he's from Ethiopia, that means he's not Arab. The Arabs themselves, their culture is full of racism and prejudice and tribalism. Among the tribes, there's tribalism and factions on who's the better, who's the superior, etc., 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 etc. So all the way down from our circle and our lineage, there's someone that's not even from what? Us. So it's hard to strike what? Strike one. Number two is that he's a what? No, before that. Slave. So he's Ethiopian, so he's not from our land. Regardless of what his skin look like. But he's not what? He's not one of us. That's strike number one. Strike number two, this Ethiopian or Persian or Roman, whatever he is not Arab, he is noble. Noble, right? He's a king, son of a great warrior, son of this, son of that. He's a what? So his social status, even among his own people, is, everybody get the eloquence of the hadith now? So he's not from us, and he's a slave, and of course, and this is something that many people don't want to accept, but it is a reality, the last knockout punch, the elbow, after the hook or the uppercut, is the complexion of the skin. But oftentimes the complexion of the skin isn't the main thing. Well, people that get caught up in that. And you talk about history, slavery. And I think one of the greatest lies sold is that slavery is primarily based off of black and white. That's a huge lie. Never was. That's a lie that your teacher told you. But it's much deeper than that. And for real, we talk about slavery and wars and atrocities and occupations. It ain't about the religion, but it's about money and nobility. Money and nobility, or nobility and money. So right now he's a foreigner, he's an outsider, and he's a slave or an ex-slave. How can he be looked up to? And his skin is like this and like that. So the Prophet is telling the people to follow their leaders in the good, even if it's someone that they personally hate and dislike. Everyone understand this? So the main focus of this hadith is not to praise Arabs and to downplay black people or Ethiopian people or African people, but it's to shed light on the importance of the what? On the what? La. On the leader. And the importance of following the leader, the jama'ah. Obeying your ruler. The importance of it. Everyone understand this? If you had a wife, I said, treat your wife kindly, even if she's from Iowa, wherever she's from. You get it? This is your khatib today. He came to give you a khutbah. Respect him, listen to him, pay attention. Even if he's missing a leg, even if he's from another state, even if he's white, even if he's this, even if he's that. Everybody get the point? That's the important, all right? And that's the style used. And oftentimes, you have to speak to people in a language that they understand. Everybody clear on this or not? This person's your brother, even if he's white. Simple as that. He's your Muslim brother in faith, even if he's white. For Japan. Everyone understand this? So, it then says that whoever among you lives after I am gone will see great disputes. Unavoidable. Whoever lives for some time is going to see the Muslims fighting each other, killing each other, arguing with each other, debating with each other, hating each other, scorning each other. He's going to see different philosophical debates. He's going to see different people making up different aqidas, different practices, political strife and schism, splintering. He's going to see not differing, but it says what? Abundant differing. اختلاف كثير. That's the Sunnah of Allah. So instead of running from it and saying, oh, it's so confusing, why do Muslims embrace it? That's supposed to increase you in faith. This is what the Prophet told us it will be like. That the people will differ abundantly. They'll always be fighting and arguing. So therefore, what's the cure to this fighting and to this arguing? What's the cure for this different sectarianism? What's different types of sectarianism? What's the cure for the Muslims bickering? What's the cure? What's the way out? Where do we go? He said, you must adhere to my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided khulafa, including primarily Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali, or the sunnah of the Sahaba, of any righteous, strong, solid leader. You have a living example of what you're supposed to be doing. Stick to that. And on top of you sticking to the sunnah, and on top of you taking the understanding and the practice of the Sahaba, on top of all of that, and beware of newly invented matters. Beware of something that some sheikh or some scholar or some group came up with in a dream, or vision, or intuition, or culture, or the ancestors passed down. This type of mysticism, or this type of whatever name or quality or title is given, but it came from before they were Muslim. And then they, filtered it a little bit, sifted through, but it passed on to it after they accepted Islam, imitating the Jews and the Christians. Christmas. There's a reason why Christmas is on the 25th of December. It's not Christ's birthday. They know that it's not the day in which he was born, but there's a reason why. How they celebrate Christmas, what they drink, what they eat, what they hang up, there's a reason why. And those reasons were to appease the new converts from paganism to the way of the church. We can't be too hardcore. We got to meet them halfway. And that's a dangerous discussion with regards to what people call or consider balance. Oh, he's a balanced brother. He's balanced. Oftentimes people mean when they say the word balance, the truth compromising with falsehood. And the truth coming halfway to batil, then you're balanced. Be careful. So what's important is these people, they started practicing things as Muslims, and it was something that their people practiced when they were mushriks. And they just Islamicized it. Beware of bid'ah. Because every single innovation, not some, not most, not those that pertain to Aqidah, kullu bid'atin dalalah. End of discussion. You understand this? Every single innovation is wrong, no matter how good or how it may seem, so on and so forth. Khair, inshallah, we'll stop here. Hopefully the message and the lesson is more than clear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala surely knows best, and with him is all success. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll take the questions, hopefully after the salah. Wallahu ta'ala alam.